welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Akimbalo in Abuja. Since the announcement of the removal of subsidy by President Bola Tinubu on the 29th of May this year, when he was sworn into office, the center is perhaps no longer holding, as a lot of effects of that policy decision came crashing, affecting cost of food, transportation, and virtually every commodity that you can think of. And in fact, every aspect of the economy has been impacted. Now, on the commemoration of the October 1, the independence anniversary, President Bola Tinubu promised that the distribution of cash palliatives to mitigate the effects of fuel subsidy removal will commence this month. The president said more cash will be given to families. He said, quote, commencing this month, the social safety net is being extended through the expansion of cash transfer programs to an additional 15 million vulnerable households. Let me allow you to listen again. Let me remind you of what the president said 8 days ago.
To boost employment and urban incomes, we are providing investment funding for enterprises with greater potential. Similarly, we are increasing investment in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Commencing this month, the social safety net is being extended through the expansion of the cash transfer programs to an additional 15 million vulnerable households. My administration shall always accord the highest priority to the safety of the people.
President Bola Tinubu on the 1st of October. The ministry which has the burden of disbursing all these is majorly the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and the Poverty Alleviation. Just yesterday, the ministry came up with a statement stating that the federal government has suspended the NPower program indefinitely. The NPower is a scheme set up by former President Buhari since June 2016 years to address the issues of youth unemployment and help increase social development. The suspension of NPower was as a result of some irregularities observed within the scheme. That is according to the minister. An investigation, she says, will be launched into how the funds were spent since the beginning of the program. Tonight, I'm being joined by the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Ms. Betta Edu. She's live with us here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean, for having me.
Thank you so much indeed. I think we should begin, before I go back to what the president said. NPower has been on ground since 2016. There are those who are against the NPower, who do not believe the NPower has been properly administered before now. There's a lot of controversy around that regime. But you came up yesterday in a statement from your ministry suspending it. Why?
Okay, so first and foremost, NPower is part of the social safety net program to provide some sort of transit point for Nigerians. So young persons previously used to be between the ages of 18 and 35 who are not yet gainfully employed, both skilled and unskilled. Majority of the persons were graduates, and then a very, very little portion, less than 1%, were non-skilled persons. And so far from the onset up until this point, we saw documents which said NPower has carried on about 960,000 Nigerian youths so far.
Since 2016?
Yes.
That is what the scheme has
That's what we have on
served.
record, that's what the scheme has served.
Almost 1 million people.
Almost 1 million people. Now, the scheme has different badges. So there was the NPower 1.0, there's NPower 2.0, and then, of course, they have the badge A, badge B, and then the badge C, which are supposed to be the only ones left on the program. However, when we came on board, the first point we found out was that monies were being held by the consultant from early this year up until August without paying beneficiaries. And so we had beneficiaries who were owed some 7 months, as at that time, some 8 months, some who had already left the program since 2022, they said they had an exit package which had not yet been paid to them, so they hung on to the program. So there are different categories of people who were on the program. Initially, we tried to say, let's still manage people where they are and then start the investigation. After preliminary investigation, it was very clear that at this point we needed to draw the line and then pay off those who were owing while bringing back on board almost immediately the renewed hope NPower, which is like the job acquisition and all of that, skill acquisition and all of that. So the first thing we did was to look into the books. What's going on here? Why are people owed for this long? How many people are on the program? For those who are still on the program, are they going to work? Are they reporting at the places of primary assignment? How many people did you take on board initially? How many people have completed their 1 year timing? And how many people have been dropped off? All of these questions, some of them left unanswered, some of them answered. And we had to go into further investigations as to why Nigerians, young Nigerians who put in their efforts, were not paid when you have the money sitting there. In fact, I arrived, and the week I arrived as minister, they quickly rushed to pay 20,000 out of the number of persons they were supposed to cover, which was about 360,000 persons. They paid 20,000. And then the next week, they said they wanted to pay another 40,000. And the question was, why are you paying them in trickles when you have monies enough to pay everybody who at least you're owed for a certain amount of months? And so all of these were all the gray areas we had with the NPower. And at this point, for investigations to go on fully without any form of obstruction, we had to suspend the NPower. And so what we're pleading and what we are saying to Nigerians, first and foremost, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is highly interested in young people. He's brought a lot of young people into government, and I'm a young person myself. I understand what it means for a young person to be unemployed and sitting down at home. And we're not going to let you sit at home. We better get it right from the foundation so that every day you put in your sweat and you go to work, you go back home with the money that you truly deserve.
Let me ask quickly. So, to start with, how many people are presently under the NPower before the suspension yesterday?
Presently, about 360,000.
360,000. And these are drawn from across the nation?
Across the nation.
So serving in education, agro, health, and about 4 or 5 areas.
Yes, for the skilled and unskilled.
And unskilled.
Yes.
Now, so, and this usually, when you are taking people in, they're supposed to go on to the portal and apply for it.
Good. So that was yet another foundational error, right? If you have funding, right now the NPower which we are restructuring, we're saying we'll take on 1 million Nigerian youths every year. So by 5 years, would have done 5 million Nigerian youths.
So when it's supposed to be a yearly program,
yes,
a 12-month program.
12 months.
After that 12 months, they pass
transit.
out.
Good. So
you take new people.
Yes, you should have built their skills. You should have linked them up to places where they can get jobs.
So how do they apply for it? Because
they
that
apply
is
online.
Yeah.
However, that's where the problem started from. So if you have ability to carry 1 million and you let 8 million apply and register, you have already called for chaos. So now when you take maybe 500,000 or 1 million from the 8 million that have applied and fully registered, they begin to question, why am I left out?
Because that is a question mark on the proprietary of the selection process, because there are those who say they've applied severally and they do not think that it was fair on them, because those who are picked, they think that they are politically connected. That's why they are being given the opportunity. Are you going to change that?
Those are part of the things which we're investigating. And for us, for the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the watchword is transparency, accountability, and integrity. For the NPower, everyone who applies based on first come, first serve. As far as you meet the criteria for each category, you would be given a chance on first come, first serve. And the servers can confirm.
What is the quota for each state?
So we are not necessarily going to allocate quotas to states in quotes and unquotes.
So you might have, for example, one state taking 200,000.
So we are not rather using states. We are going to be using the local governments. And the reason is so that we can take it as far down to the grassroots as possible and give a bigger opportunity for everyone.
There are about 774
local governments. So you register against your local government.
So you spread the 1 million across the 700.
Yes.
So that means there will still be quota.
Definitely, but not against states, but now against local government based on the population of that local government.
How much are they supposed to be paid every month?
So the present pay right now, at some point they were paid 30,000. At some point, they were paid 20,000, and I was told that's the exit package.
Package for them.
Something like that. But we are going to have a unified payment for everyone who will come on the scheme. We are still working that out. It's still a work in progress. We have made certain proposals. We have proposals of 50,000. We have proposals of 60,000. And some have said that we should wait until we have that agreement on what the new minimum wage is and then pay them according to the new minimum wage. So that's all the discussion that we have on the table while we're restructuring.
Let me ask you this question, which is also very important, based on the decision that the ministry made yesterday coming from your office. You said there are third parties that are involved in the disbursement and the organization and coordination of the NPower program.
Yes.
Is it just one private organization that does this?
So it's just one consultant that is involved in the disbursement.
So the irregularities that you found out, is it from your government official or from the private organization or the consultant handling it?
So the funds were transferred from the government account into the account of the consultant who was expected to pay. However, that funds have sat there for quite a while.
So what are you going to do to that consultant?
We have already written. First, we've asked for a return of the complete funds that are in his possession after the initial audit into the NPower CBN government account.
Who is this consultant, Honorable Minister? Can Nigerians know?
Well,
is it possible? Because this is a Nigerian project. This is money belonging to the Nigerian people. And if there are culprits, if people are not doing the right thing, is it right to actually put names to these kind of people?
So two things. One, I think it's foreclosed. And then secondly, like I said, there are parts in which the structure of the program did not help delivery. And then there are parts in which the consultant is to be held accountable, right? For me, where I see the error with the consultant is the speed in paying persons who are beneficiaries when you have funds available. Where I see the error in the part of the government is in terms of monitoring and evaluation, initial uptake of persons who are coming in, and offload of persons who are supposed to leave, and of course, the sustainability plan for this person. So you're not taking Nigerians on, young people on, and paying them for 1 year, and then at the end of 1 year, you don't have a proper exit plan for them. Before even 6 months, right, you should begin to do some kind of pitch deck where these people can reach out to organizations where they can get gainfully employed.
Can we trust you tonight to sit on whoever is responsible and bring them to book? Can Nigerians hold your words to that?
Sure, we've started already, and that's why we suspended the program. If we wanted to put things in secrecy or shred things in secrecy, we would not do so. We put an end to it so that we can start on the right foundation and one that is transparent to all Nigerians, and young people can truly benefit.
Is it possible that the anti-graft agency will weigh in immediately? Is it possible?
They're already on notice. They're already on notice.
And they're investigating the matter?
Yeah, part of it. They're already on notice.
The EFCC or the ICPC?
ICPC has been written to. because this is government money and we need to recover it to pay all those who truly are being owed. Like we said, all young people who are being owed, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will ensure that you are completely paid for the months you worked in.
Mind you,
and then
Minister,
will be given opportunity to employ in the new
There
ones.
are cases of those who are even in the batch A and batch B who are complaining and whom we have who have said that they are being owed and they have not been paid. Not to talk of the batch C who are currently on right now.
So one of the things which we are bringing on board is to create a portal where people who have complaints can put these complaints out. We have already created a situation room. We've created a committee that is handling the investigation of NPower. We've created a situation room, and we are going to put out the portal detail so Nigerians, young persons, whether in batch A, batch B, batch C, who have truly worked, and we can get evidence from their place of primary assignment that they truly worked and they were not paid, can put in their complaints, which will be addressed by this government.
You know what baffles the mind, Minister? That this ministry has had a lot of doubts in the minds of Nigerians because there was a point during the COVID era where monies were said to have been disbursed, and this was during the COVID era, and people were questioning the disbursement mechanism. If there was COVID, how were you able to disburse money to market traders who are supposed not to have been in their homes? How are you cooking for children who are supposed to be giving food in the school feeding program, who are supposed to be at home during the COVID, where there was virtually no activity in the country? And question mark onto how these monies were disbursed to these vulnerable Nigerians, and there are no answers to this. There is a whole lot of questions as to how the vulnerable Nigerians who, by privilege or by right, they're supposed to be given money, but they're now given money. Are you aware of this burden on your office?
If you know President Bola Ahmed Tinubu very well, you know that he's one who is very compassionate and truly means well for this nation. Even in his unguarded moments, he always speaks positively about Nigeria and how he can change things and leave a legacy. And he put this very straight to us at inauguration, and at every point I have met with the president. He has been very emphatic about this. He said, we need to change the narrative. We need to ensure that poor people are brought out of poverty. That's why I changed the name of that ministry, so that you can concentrate on giving succor to the poor. And you must do this in a transparent manner, build the confidence of the people on government. And that's what I'm here to do.
There's a lot of distrust when it comes to Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, and some of the scenarios that are played out. People holding Indomie. And some of these palliatives were being destroyed in warehouses, people falling over each other on expired palliatives. They're supposed to have better the lives of people during the COVID era where they needed the food. So I'm asking you, Honorable Minister, what would you be doing differently to ensure that that distrust goes away? Can Nigerians trust you?
Of course, Nigerians can trust me. Not just me, but the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. One of the first things which I did on arrival was to find out about our warehouses and what do we have in those warehouses. And I asked them to send them all out. I said, people cannot be there needing these things for survival, and you're holding them up in the warehouses. Release them. And every state I go to, I release them out to the people in those states. However, we don't want to do it in a manner that would bring chaos. We don't want to do it in a manner where we gather people in their hundreds of thousands and they begin to trample upon themselves, and we end up in a near chaos situation, or if not outright chaos. We want to be more strategic. We want to be able to deliver food items to doorsteps of Nigerians that truly need it under the End Hunger program.
Let me ask you, the palliatives in relation to what President Bola Tinubu said on the 1st of October, he said it will start this month. What day is it starting?
So that is the conditional cash transfer. With approval from the president, which we hope to get this week, on the 17th of October, we'll be officially launching the conditional cash transfer to 15 million households in Nigeria. Presently, as we speak, we are having a verification exercise. Every state can bear us witness that we have put boots on ground, persons who are working with the state cash transfer office, as well as the governors who are the head of the steering committee, and then several other persons who are in the states, the local government heads, the community heads for community targeting, of course, geographical targeting. All of this is to be sure that those who are on the National Social Register truly are Nigerians. They fall within the under $1.95 a day, and they deserve to have it. Remember, some people on the register will probably be dead. Some people on the register would have moved out of that bracket because they got a job, they're no longer where they used to be, and all of that. We need to be able to mine that data, get these people out, and deal with people.
So you're cleaning up the data?
Yes, that's
because
what we're doing presently.
There are question marks also on the data of the vulnerable, the poor of the poorest families in that bracket, and those who say, in fact, there are now ghost families or ghost homes on that register. How can we trust? How is it possible? Is it possible for any Nigerian to be able to cross-check in any way the data that you have?
So two things. First, as we speak, we are on the field cleaning up that data and doing a complete verification. And we're putting together, just supposing, both the BVN, NIN, and the rest of it to identify these people and be sure that we are dealing with authentic persons. And then, of course, there's biometrics to it, and you have a capturing of the head of the household as well as a picture of the household, so it can be located. On each of these households, they're numbered, so people can go there and verify against the register. But beyond this, one of the things which we are doing is to work with those at the local level, to the commerce and other officials at the local level, to reach out to those who need it the most. We're equally doing a kind of rapid response expansion in that we'll be capturing persons who were left out of the register just to fill in the spaces of those who are either dead or have moved out of that bracket.
So the question is the number of Nigerians who are banking,
yes,
which is less than 60 million.
Yeah.
So you look at the number of Nigerians who have national identity, less than 50 million. The number of Nigerians with NIN, less than 100 million, is about 97 million. So when you look at the vulnerable Nigerians and the poorest of the poor, these are the people who may not even have any of these criteria. Are you not naturally cutting off some of these people who may be needing it in truth?
So we have devised another means. The group of persons who are registered presently, and they have all of this. The NIN, remember, we're dealing with 15 million households. Like you said, most of these data, the NIN, we have almost 100. For the bank BVN, we have over 60 million, and the rest of it, we're dealing with just 15 million. Now, in this 15 million, you still have a good percentage from the data which we are looking through right now, about 30% of them.
How many people do we have on the poor people register in Nigeria?
We have 15.7 million households and 62 million individuals. However, in the household, we're dealing with the head of the household. So not taking into consideration
the number of people.
Entire
They say
number.
Averagely is between 3 and 5.
So averagely is between 5 and 9. So down south, it's about 5. And then up north it's about 9. Yeah. Right? That's what we
Jigawa having perhaps the highest.
Of course, the highest. And then we have somewhere in the south, in Bayelsa, in Cross River, and they have the lower average, which is about 5.
So the question now is, how much would they be getting every month?
25,000 naira every month for 3 months, which amounts to a total of 75. Now, just to finish that point, which I tried to raise, for that 30% that do not have an existing account, we want to be able to open a tier 3 account for them, which is an on-the-go account, and then link them up to POS and money agents that can be able to take funds for them They'll use their card, get the funds at their locality where they live without necessarily going elsewhere.
So, now, another question here will be, how can Nigerians track this? How can we monitor? How transparent is this process? How can we verify that what the federal government is doing is truly transparent?
So that's one of the biggest challenges I had when I came on board. When I came on board, I said, we are going to publish names of beneficiaries for once on the dailies so that every Nigerian will know who benefited. Enough of putting things in secrecy and then you have people say nobody's benefiting, we don't know them, they are ghosts.
Wouldn't that contravene their
now
data protection, personal data protection policy?
Protection policy, and of course the freedom of information right, and all of those were brought into query. So what we are doing now is to get people to sign off, permitting us to be able to bring this data to the public. That way, we can have a transparent process. Beyond this, it's going to be a bank-to-bank transfer. So it's traceable from the origin to the point where it gets into the account of the Nigerian. And remember, there are conditions that are attached to this. The president is trying to provide some succor, some immediate relief. He has a lot of long-term plans, medium-term plans to be able to provide the best for Nigeria. This is just an immediate cushioning of the economic shock that was brought about by the fuel subsidy. And of course, this is supposed to help families to be able to get some livelihood to do. It's supposed to help them to be able to pay for basic education for their children, learn some skills. All of these are all fashioned to ensure sustainability. So at the end of collecting 75,000 naira, you can tell yourself, well, I used this little for upkeep, but this chunk, I used it to learn a new skill that will bring more money into our pockets.
So you are launching it this month?
Yes.
But the register is not quite ready to begin it. So it might not practically begin this month until next month.
The register will be ready by the 15th of October, and that's why we are launching out on the 17th of October.
Yeah.
However, the expansion, so for instance, when we went into a meeting with the Nigerian Labour Congress, they said part of the requirements to suspend the strike was that we will have vulnerable pensioners involved in this conditional cash transfer. Now, the expansion to cover vulnerable pensioners will take beyond 2 weeks because we need to go to the field, capture them, do the biometrics and all of that, which I went to meet them in their office and clearly told them that they need to work with me, provide the needed data and locations of this person. We'll go into the field, we'll capture them where they live, and open the bank accounts for those who don't have, but we believe all of them should have bank accounts because they are pensioners and they are receiving some form of pension. And then we can now be sure that by the first week of November to the second week of November, they would be receiving their own share of it. So I had that discussion with them, which was a frank discussion, apologized for the reasons why we might not be able to take them on this October. But for the rest, they're starting this October.
So it's supposed to be for initial 3 months, October, November, and December.
December.
Fantastic. When in the month would they be getting the money? Is it at the end of the month?
At the end of the month.
At the end of the month, just like salaries?
Yes, just like salaries for 3 months.
Okay. So before we're due for a break now, but before we do that, I'd like to ask you, since you're the minister in charge of poverty alleviation, there are over almost 135 million Nigerians who are multidimensionally poor. Almost 100 million Nigerians who are living below the poverty line. That means they find it difficult to fend for themselves. If they do not go out a day to earn a living, it might be difficult. Now, the past government has said they will provide 10 million jobs over the next 10 years, which started about 3 years ago or so. From your own point of view, since the president started doing with that responsibility, how much of poverty can we eradicate in Nigeria or alleviate? How much of people can we remove from that cadre?
So there are two things, and I'll carefully explain it to you. I would like to describe it this way. There's a pit that probably, or a trunk where poor people are already in it. And then there are those who are right at the edge of it, who might, if not protected, fall into it, right? What our ministry is doing is to, number one, provide a social safety net that prevents these people from falling into poverty. And then secondly, trying to pull as many as possible that are in poverty out of poverty. We have mapped out different programs, national programs that is expected to address the issue of multidimensional poverty. Of course, you have the NPower, which is supposed to create 5 million jobs in 5 years. We have the JIP program, which is supposed to provide funds for enterprise and empowerment. These are like non-zero interest loans for market women, for traders, for farmers. We have other projects like the End Hunger Project, the shelter projects for the poor, vulnerables, and IDP, of course, including refugees. We have several other projects that are lined up. All of them are targeted at the different dimensions of poverty. So when you say multidimensional poverty, some of it is because they do not have shelter. What are you doing to address shelter? Some of it is because they are out of school. What are you doing to reduce the number of out-of-school children? Some of it is because they do not have capitals to run their businesses. What are we doing to address the capitals to run their businesses? Of course, the president has already approved to provide those loans to petty traders, to market women, and of course, the farmers.
Minister, I'd like to ask you pointedly, what are the numbers you're working with?
So working on
how many people are you planning per year to remove from poverty?
For the conditional cash transfer, we're working with 15 million households, which amounts to about 60 million individuals directly touched by the conditional cash transfer. On the NPower job creation, which is the Renewed Hope job creation scheme, we're working on 5 million Nigerian youths between the ages of 18 and 40. And this will be taken 1 million per year. On the JIP program, we're working on 1.5 million Nigerians, and this will include the market women, the traders for capital, and then the farmers. On the homegrown school feeding, which is expected to deal with the nutrition, health, and in a way keep children, act as an incentive to keep children in school. We are looking at reaching out to over 10 million children within the next 4 years. On the various programs, we have the targets for those programs. Remember, again, I say it's multidimensional, and depending on the number of persons within that bracket, you would put your intervention to address those numbers.
Unfortunately, the poverty is multidimensional on one hand. On the other hand is the fact that people are permanently and sadly under that belt. They are there and they are not able to fend for themselves. But the question here, these schemes that you have mentioned, they've been on the ground and they have not changed. If not, things are getting worse. And that's why I'm asking you, and Nigerians would like to know tonight, Honorable Minister, how many people should we be seeing getting out of poverty in Nigeria in the next 1 year?
In the next 1 year.
Have you designed that? Do you have an idea?
In the next 1 year, we would have directly touched at least 70 million Nigerians.
I'd like to ask you, the school feeding program, this is targeted to help nourish school children and encourage them, like an incentive for them to stay in school. There are particularly disturbing sight of children on the street, Almajiri students on the street in northern Nigeria. Northern Nigeria, they're seeing a lot of these little children who with bowls are begging on the street. Is there any special attention to focus on that?
So now we are working on what we call transit schools. So it's an alternate school program. And they are transit schools for people who are internally displaced or refugees that have come into the country, or children who, for whatever reason, are not in the formal school system. So at the point where they have been displaced and they are taking shelter somewhere, we create a transit school where they can go to continue learning. I'll give you an example. Back in Cross River State, when we had a lot of influx of refugees, about 46,000, with more than half of them being children. They used to stay in those camps in Ikom and Ogoja, and they never used to go to school. And every time I went there to give a health intervention, my heart was bleeding because I said, this is a huge risk to Nigeria. In Niger, I was in Niger a couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, and I saw that 400 schools were shut down because of bandits. And these children were with their parents in their IDP camps. And we had to start doing this, having some discussion with UNICEF on how we can create a transit learning camp for them where they can continue to have schools. What we're going to do now with the restructured NPower is to say those who are under N education or N teaching, they will be attached to these transit schools. Children like the one you have described will be covered in these transit schools.
There's an Almajiri agency right now. Are you aware?
Yes, there is. And we're hoping that they can carry most of these children. However, we will be focusing on those who are IDPs, refugees, extremely poor, and do not fit into the Almajiri schools. Of course, we'll take them into these schools, and they too, they'll be provided with the homegrown school feeding.
Are you changing the vendors, or you are retaining the vendors?
We're changing the entire structures of the homegrown school feeding. I'm sure it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people, but we don't want to do business as usual. We want Nigerians to truly feel the impact. And I beg of Nigerians to be patient with us, give us the benefit of doubt, and let us restructure it from the foundation. Because you cannot build on a foundation that is
it still
faulty.
running, though?
Oh, for the last 1 year, at least from what I remember, children have not been fed for a long while now, from what the books say.
So hopefully, when would this return?
January next year. So this period, these 3 months, are basically like incubating months for us.
All right. So trader money, this is another controversy. Is
Yes.
trader money still on?
Yes, it is.
Because they said your party has been accused of using trader money to lure traders to vote for your party.
Well, we don't have elections right now. As we're starting the Renewed Hope JEEP program, we don't have elections. We have Nigerians. Politics is over. We are facing governance, and that's what President Bola
How do you identify
Ahmed
these
Tinubu
traders?
It's about. Now, for the first set, which was starting in November, we are selecting one big market per senatorial district. That's 109 markets. And we are going into the market, capture the traders in their shops, in the market. We are not interested in party lines, any social or personal interest. We capture them in the market, and then, after doing so, we create a bank account just as they're being captured. The banks are creating the accounts for them, and the monies are sent directly from CBN accounts into...
How much are you giving to them?
It's 50,000 naira to support their businesses. So
every month?
No. Per time, yes.
For how long?
It's a one-off, and there is a zero-interest loan. So they are expected to pay back the 50, which now qualifies them for yet another.
The final question I'd like to ask you, you talk, I mean, in part, you talk about delivering palliatives with drones. Have you secured the drones which you'll be using?
So, not the delivery with the drones. We said we are going to use technology to deliver these palliatives to the people who need it. Now, we have households. These households are captured. We know their location. We can do geo-tracking to ensure that palliative leave from manufacturer directly to the point of delivery without necessarily bringing heaps together, calling people,
so
and then they begin to step on themselves.
So you're not using drones?
No.
Or you're using technology?
Yes.
You said drone the other time, but maybe you've changed.
Tracking technologies.
That's what you are using?
Yes.
On a final note, Honorable Minister, how bad is the state of affairs of your ministry when you got on the ground?
Well, it's something we need to know over time. When I arrived, everything seemed good and okay. and then gradually by the day, we get to see areas that need to be restructured, areas where they have done well, areas where we have to completely dispose of what was
Those
done.
who are close in your ministry said there's a lot of rots in that ministry.
And that's why we're having the restructuring. It's not comfortable for many persons because they believe that the status quo should continue. But like we've said, we have to make bold decisions.
And you're ready to take this on.
If we want things to get down to the grassroots, to the people who need it. We're fighting poverty here. We're not fighting poverty of 2 persons, 5 persons, or 10. It's in their millions. And so we have to do what's right.
You're ready to take this on, and you have the support of the president?
We are ready to take this on, and the president is 100% behind the ministry to ensure that we achieve results. Dr.
Betta Edo, Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, thank you so much indeed for that.
You're welcome.
Wish you the very best.
Thank you.